And our recording has begun. Welcome to today's webinar, Opportunities for NSF ATE Program Funding and MentorConnect Grant Writing Support. I'm your host, Mike Lasecki, here at the Maricopa Community Colleges. It's my privilege to work with our colleagues at MentorConnect and our presenters today. The system we're using is called Adobe Connect. Many of you have used it before. I've changed the slides to give you a brief introduction to the interface that we're going to be using. We'll have 3 polls today. The polls that you see right now are organized up in the upper right of your screen, but when I launch those polls, they'll appear in the middle of the screen. Just simply click on the radial buttons to give your response to the poll. The participants column shows everyone that's logged in today. You might know people. In fact, you can click on their name and send them a private message if you wish. That's quite a reasonable thing to do. Remember, the moderators see all of the chats that go on. Speaking of chats, the chat box is in the lower right. We're going to be using that today quite a bit. I'd like to ask you right now to please type the name of your organization and how many people are in the room with you today. Just use that lower right window, the name of your organization and how many people are with you today. So we see people checking in from Cleveland Community College, from Southeast Community College, New Mexico State University. Excellent, excellent. A number of people have multiple persons in the room that sometimes watch this on a screen projected on the wall. That works pretty well. Everyone looks like they're really solid with using the chat window. Thank you, folks, for responding. I'd like to now welcome Elaine Kraft. She's the principal investigator of the MentorConnect project. Elaine, will you say hello to everyone and then please introduce your co-presenters for today?
Hi, Mike, and thank you. If you'll hang on just 1 minute, I seem to have misplaced my stack of papers.
Got to have those.
We do.
Your
have
audio
to have
sounds
those.
good, by the way, Elaine. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, we have in this picture Elaine Kraft, that's me, and I'm the principal investigator. And then Ellen Haas is to my right, and she is a co-principal investigator with the American Association of Community Colleges. There's Ellen. And next is Dennis Faber, and he is a co-principal investigator residing in Maryland. And Charlotte Forrest is here at our ATE office in South Carolina, and she's a co-principal investigator and serves as our project manager. On the lower row here, we have Osa Brand, who is senior personnel for our project. And Osa is an experienced ATE PI and works on faculty development projects and helps us with our project. And Dave Hata is our external evaluator. And next we're going to introduce Dave Campbell. Dave is a marine biologist. He works for the National Science Foundation now. He is a native of Newport, Rhode Island. He has been with NSF now since 2001. He is a program director, and he works in several programs at the National Science Foundation. He is in the Division of Research on Learning in Formal and Informal Settings, but he also works with the ATE program, which is really important. We're thrilled to have him working with our program. And Dave has joined us today to tell us more about the ATE program. The agenda for today is that we will first introduce the ATE program, and Dave Campbell will do that for us. And then the second part of the program is where we will talk with you about the MentorConnect opportunity for getting some grant writing support and mentoring help and technical assistance in order to prepare and submit a competitive proposal to the NSF ATE program and to get some assistance with conducting a good and effective project should you be funded. Now, the first thing we're going to do, and I'll ask you to help me with this, Mike, is that I want to see what our audience thinks the funding rate for the ATE program might be overall for all proposals submitted to the ATE program, and if they would use the the opportunity to choose answers on the screen here. I think, Mike, you can run this poll for us.
There we go, Elaine. A little slow in getting it launched there. And if people just click on the radial buttons, you can see the responses are coming in right now, Elaine. So you just tell me when you would like to close that poll.
Okay. Okay, so we have some people who think have chosen all the answers. That's interesting, and the most have selected 34%. But I'm not going to spill the beans, Mike. I'm going to save that information for Dave Campbell to share with our audience, and we will find out very shortly what the overall funding rate is for the ATE program. Now I'd like to turn it over to our special guest. Dave, it's all yours to tell us about the ATE program and the National Science Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be able to share with you a little bit about the ATE program today. I'm speaking to you from beautiful downtown Arlington, Virginia, where the foundation is now. But on the right is a picture of our new building, which is under construction right now. And 2016 turned out to be a little optimistic. We'll be moving into our new headquarters supposedly near the end of 2017. I'm in the Division of Research on Learning, but ATE is managed by program officers in the Division of Undergraduate Education as well as the Division of Research on Learning. And the funding comes through the Division of Undergraduate Education. So in a minute I'll show you how to find more information about the ATE program on the NSF website. So here's a little overview of the National Science Foundation. We've got a new director, France Cordova, came online about last year sometime. But if you see here, there's about 7 research and education directorates, 1 education directorate, but we also have directorates for engineering, geosciences, math and physical sciences, biology, etc. And NSF funds basic research in practically any field. Some things we try to, we don't fund because we don't want to overlap with other federal agencies. So for instance, we don't do any medical research because that falls under the purview of the National Institutes of Health. But basic research in practically any field, including astronomy, is something that we do at the National Science Foundation. A little small to read here, but there's 4 divisions within the Directorate of Education and Human Resources. And like I said, we have 2 divisions here, undergraduate research and research on learning, that is supported by NSF, that oversees the ATE program. So when you go to the NSF website, and make sure it's nsf.gov, if you go to nsf.org, you'll get the National Sanitation Foundation, which is a fine organization, but it's not us. But the best way to go is in the upper right here, there's a little link for quick links. When you click on that, it will take you to a listing of all the different directorates within NSF. It's a fast way to get into things. And when you click on the education page, you'll get something that looks like this, right? Our education homepage. And there's a couple of things I want to highlight on this page. One is, if you want to know more about EHR funding, all of the awards, possibilities, different types of grant opportunities that we have, there's about 30 or 34 different grant opportunities within the Education Directorate. And we tend not to focus on discipline, but we tend to focus on target audience. So we've got programs for K-12 students, programs for the general public, programs for underrepresented students, programs for graduate students, et cetera, et cetera. Also, there's another nice link right here. If you don't want to check the NSF website every day to see what's going on, you can sign up to get updates by email. And if you register for here, anytime there's a new solicitation or a press release or something dealing with the education director at NSF, you'll get an email telling you that something new has happened and with a link that will take you to what that new event is. And so if you wanted to know more about the ATE program, you'd go over here, click on the link for undergraduate education, and it would take you to the ATE program. I'll tell you a little bit more about it right here. So it is advanced technological education. So our goal is to educate highly qualified science and engineering technicians for advanced technology fields that drive the nation's economy. We want community colleges to have leadership roles on all projects. I have to qualify this just a little bit because nowadays there's a lot of what used to be called community colleges that are allowed to administer four-year degrees, etc. So you could substitute two-year degree granting institutions must have leadership roles on all the projects. But the projects themselves could also include teachers or students in grades 7 through 12, and also other faculty at two-year and four-year institutions. So sort of the pathway leading into the community college and leading out of the community college into the four-year program can also be supported in the ATE program. We do like to see partnerships. We want to see partnerships with industry and economic development entities. That would be a strength to a proposal and would tend to make it more competitive. Here's the program budget. Since the program was first instituted in 1994, it was created by an act of Congress, the Science and Technology Act of 1994, and we see we've had a nice steady rise over the years, kind of flatlined a bit since fiscal year 10, but you know, in this economy in the last 5 or 6 years, flat is really a good thing, so we haven't really gone down very much. And I think the plan for the next year will be around $65 million if Congress ever gets around to passing a budget. And we've made awards to every state in the union. Wyoming was a holdout for a long time, but now we've got some in Wyoming. My home state of Rhode Island still only has one in the last 20 years, so I'll have to see if I can do some more outreach back up there. But we try to fund community colleges all over the place. Now there's different program tracks within the ATE. Most of the funds that we put out go to what we call ATE projects. So ATE projects can request up to $300,000 per year and up to 3 years of duration. And they can be in a variety of different areas. I would say the majority come in program development, implementation, and improvement. For instance, a large number of proposals come in where they want to start a new associate's degree program. Or you might have an existing associate's degree program that needs some overhaul or modernization. And then if you're not asking for much money, if you just want to do a few courses that you want to bring up to speed and get maybe a little bit of equipment to help you with some hands-on expertise, that would be appropriate as well. But you could also request funding for professional development for educators, mostly community college faculty, but you could include some high school faculty as well. You could develop new curriculum or new educational materials. You could develop programs that would help with teacher preparation, particularly in the fields of career and technology education. And then we have a special area called Small Grants for Institutions New to the ATE program. And small means that there's a maximum funding cap of $200,000 total, and you can have from 2 to 3 years to spend that money. So that's not $200,000 per year, that's $200,000 total. And we'd like to see new awardees come into this program. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. We also have coordination networks, which would be sort of a virtual connection, sort of a virtual center more or less, where we would try to help projects that have similar themes, like automotive technology, for instance, or biotechnology, et cetera, that would then link together, form new connections and new sort of collaborations. We also have large awards called centers. These would be expected to provide either a national or a regional resource for community colleges around the nation. And then we also have support centers, which are no longer developing new materials necessarily, but would serve as a support role for other community colleges around the nation. Support centers funded for about $1.6 million total, and goes up to national centers, which are funded up to $4 million total, and they can range in duration from 3 to 5 years. We also have a track called Targeted Research on Technician Education. And this is where we want to do educational research to see what is the best way to teach community college students as they become technicians. We typically expect targeted research proposals to be a collaboration between a 2-year and a 4-year institution, where the community college can work with education researchers at 4-year institutions. And there's sort of 3 different levels within the targeted research. We have smaller planning grants, which are about $150,000, exploratory proposals, as well as full-scale proposals, and the full scales can go up to $800,000 total. So here's the answer to the poll before. Overall in the ATE program, our success rate is about 20%. And like I said before, we've had flat funding for the last 5 or 6 years. However, that one track I was telling you about, the small grants for proposals for organizations new to the ATE program, that has a much higher success rate. We think about this as sort of priming our pump. We want to get institutions to get awards so they can have the experience administering award, and that would then build the capacity for that institution to apply for a full ATE award in the future. So the success rate of that particular track is a little bit higher. To be eligible, you can't have, the institution can't have had an ATE award in the previous 10 years. And so a little bit of advice from program officers. I used to have like a top 10 list, and 5 of the top 10 would be read the solicitation. There's a lot of questions, somebody just, sees the title and they give me a call right away without reading the solicitation, and it's not a very productive conversation. So please read the solicitation carefully, okay? And then once you get a good feel for what you think it might be about and you have some specific questions, that would be a good time to contact program officers. You want to try to choose the right program track to try to narrow down your options. If you're not quite clear, you can send an email to a program officer and we can try to give you some guidance, or MentorConnect can give you some guidance. And we think you should start early. Now, proposals are coming due next month. I think it's October 8th, so it might be a little bit too late, but usually the earlier you start, the better off you will be. And there's lots of ways to get help and to avoid errors. You can contact the program officers. You can contact the folks here at MentorConnect. You can also look at other previous awardees, project PIs or center PIs, that can give you some useful advice as well. We ask you to be alert for changes. We put out a new solicitation in 2014. That's good for another year or so now, but in 2017 we'll be having a new solicitation that's out. So if you sign up for that email alert, you'll be getting a notice if any time that EHR offers a new solicitation. And so some of the things you might want to think about when you're developing your proposal, and these are sort of things that reviewers are going to be looking at as well. Keep in mind that NSF program officers aren't the ultimate or the only reviewers of this proposal. All proposals are reviewed by anywhere from 4 to 6 other external experts. We bring in community college faculty from around the country here to NSF to review the proposals. So the proposals will be reviewed by your peers. And so what you want to be able to convince the reviewers is that you have a problem and you can clearly express the problem that you want to solve. You want to describe how you're going to respond to that problem, what's your action plan. You want to convince reviewers that your team has the right credentials to do the work. And you also want to collect evidence to know whether or not you have been successful. So you want to have an effective evaluation plan. And then, we want you to share it. We don't want a project to live and die at a single institution. So if you do have a successful project, you're developing a new curriculum or some other educational resource or a new professional development plan for teachers, we want you to get the word out there to help other members of the community. So your successful proposal should have a good dissemination plan as well. Okay. So when you click on the ATE website link, you'll get a sort of a cover page like this, and the actual solicitation itself will be indicated there by the red arrow. The newest one that's out there right now is 14-577. Okay, and I've seen a few questions coming in on the chat thing, so I'm going to pause now and take some questions. So Mike, you want me to just read these off, or?
Well, I could do that, Dave. So
Okay.
There is a couple ones. You mentioned there's these various strands, project and centers. Do you have to have a project before you can be a center?
You don't have to. Looking back at the history of centers, most of the centers have had projects before they became centers. So it's not a requirement in the solicitation, but you would have to convince the reviewers that you have an existing program at your campus that has been successful and you're ready to jump right up into being a center. If you, let's say you don't have an associate's degree program in a certain field at your institution, and then you want to jump right into a center, reviewers are going to say, they have to, walk before they can leap. So that's something to be considered.
Makes sense. Here's another one. How many PIs are allowed for the small ATE grants? You might want to address the number of PIs and co-PIs that are allowed on these things.
Yep. For all NSF proposals, you're allowed 1 PI and a maximum of 4 co-PIs. But you can also have additional senior personnel within there.
Okay, good. That makes sense. Here's one. It relates to, you can see the question there, Dave. It says, can you get a list of peer reviewers as you can with NIH study sections? I think I know the answer to that one, but what is the answer?
We do not disclose the identities of the peer reviewers. However, when you submit the proposal, you have the opportunity to suggest to us individuals that you think might be good peer reviewers.
Sure, that makes sense. Here's one, and it's actually a very common question. What is a PI? And Dave, besides, it isn't just the acronym, but what would you say are the important qualities or qualifications that the PI should have to make the proposal sing?
Yeah, PI, we're in the government, so we talk jargon all the time. PI stands for Principal Investigator. The Principal Investigator should be the individual that is the leader of the entire project. This is the person like where the buck stops here, more or less. So they have to be able to play the leadership role and be able to jump in at any time and resolve any sort of crisis that comes up. May not necessarily be the person that's spending the most time on the project. Many of the projects, the PI may be only committed 1 or 2 months per year, but they might hire a project manager in the senior personnel that might be working on the project 6 months a year or even up to a full-time position. And the same thing with co-PIs. The co-PIs should be people that are able to jump into the leadership role in the case that the PI, is not able to do so at any time.
Now, one question came in, could a co-PI be an adjunct? I don't think there's any prescription against that. It's just that they need to be qualified, right?
That's true. You need to be qualified. Some people also ask me, do you have to have a PhD? And not necessarily, as long as the person has the expertise. You'll submit a 2-page biosketch with the proposal that's doesn't count against your 15-page narrative. And reviewers will look at that to see if the person has the qualifications to do so. Now, sometimes you got to think about the reviewers. If they think they're concerned about the project being institutionalized, they might be concerned that if the adjunct professor is the PI, as soon as the award's over, then the whole award will just go away. So you want to think about what other reviewers would think. What would it be like at your own campus if you had an adjunct running a large project, and if the government is funding it, they want some concern, some confidence that the project will continue after the award ends.
Sure. As long as, Dave, as we're on the PI topic, and I won't take these questions forever, I know some of our colleagues will be able to respond to them in the chat window, but can a college administrator be a PI? Let's suppose you've got a dean. Will that make your proposal look really good if you have a dean as PI?
Only if the dean has the content expertise to handle the thing. So if you've got a proposal coming in on geospatial technologies, let's say, and then the dean has a degree in business administration, it probably would go against you.
I bet you it would, right. There's a lot of detailed questions there, Dave, and I think we'll have an opportunity as we come back into the question periods later, to address them. Thanks for those responses. Why don't we go ahead into the next slide? Why don't you go ahead from there?
All right. Thanks so much, Dave. Our audience today may be wondering why MentorConnect. Why do we have this project, and why has the ATE program funded this project? To date, too few technical and community colleges have benefited from NSF funding. And even though we saw on that map that awards have been made, in every state in the union, we still have not reached nearly all of the community colleges. And it is getting increasingly more challenging to win a grant award. Requirements are constantly changing, and competition is stiff. Feedback that was once available through the NSF ATE preliminary proposal process has been discontinued. So while the nation desperately needs highly skilled technicians in advanced technology fields, it has gotten progressively harder to get grant funding to add, grow, or improve technician education programs. In good economic times and bad, there is a persistent shortage of highly skilled technicians in the advanced technology fields that drive our nation's economy. Two-year technical and community colleges are the primary providers of this component of the workforce, and in most technologies and disciplines, we are not recruiting, retaining, or graduating enough highly skilled technicians to meet industry needs. To address this challenge, we need more STEM faculty and community colleges, focusing like lasers on meeting this demand. The ATE program is designed to stimulate and support just this kind of work. Several smaller mentoring projects conducted in recent years have demonstrated that peer mentoring is a very effective way to stimulate knowledge transfer, share best practices, and improve outcomes. The ATE program has created a community that shares willingly with one another. With approximately 225 to 250 funded projects each year, an incredible amount is being learned about what works and what doesn't in technician education. There are a wealth of resources available from ATE grantees to help each of us do our jobs better. And, most relevant to today's webinar, we have an increasing number of experienced principal investigators, some of whom are former NSF program officers, who are willing to assist first-time applicants as they seek NSF ATE funding. We select 10 each year to work one-on-one with our college team participants. Having someone who has been down the path many times to guide you can make the difference between success and failure. So, the vision of our MentorConnect project is to establish a regenerative mentoring system for leadership development and knowledge transfer to broaden the impact of the ATE program on technician education in this country. Our system is made up of three primary facets. We help educators develop good projects and competitive proposals for the ATE program. We select mentors and prepare them to assist both potential and funded PIs. And funded PIs are being mentored to develop leadership skills and improve project outcomes. We are already seeing that as new PIs gain experience and confidence, they are growing up to become mentors themselves, enabling a new generation of PIs to give back to the AT community that supported them. So, what are we doing? How are we going about doing this? We select a cohort of college teams to work with each year. We are just finishing the third year of this project, and we are now working with over 200 faculty and administrators from 59 colleges in 24 states. To support our college teams, we are selecting and preparing a group of 10 highly experienced ATE mentors each year. These mentors work with 2 colleges each throughout the year. Through our workshops and technical assistance, we are giving participants grant writing knowledge and experience specific to NSF and ATE. Most importantly, many of those we are working with are receiving their first ATE grant awards. Next month, we will review the applications that have been submitted for this year, and 20 more colleges will join the growing MentorConnect family and ATE community. So here's some pictures of some of our cohorts who are now part of our MentorConnect family. These are some of our Cohort 1 participants at their January workshop in 2013. This was held in Atlanta, Georgia. Oh, excuse me. The first one was in Portland, Oregon, and it was in 2012. In Cohort 2, we met in Atlanta, Georgia in 2013. And then in Cohort 3, we met in Clearwater, Florida for our January workshop. Later in the webinar, you're going to find out where the January 2016 workshop will be held for those 20 teams that are selected for Cohort 4. Right now, I wish I could put a mirror on the screen so that you could see yourself in a picture of Cohort 4 participants. So the goals of the MentorConnect project are pretty specific. We're going to use, and we are using, outreach and mentoring to increase the number and diversity of those applying for grants, to increase the quality of proposals being submitted, and to strengthen leadership skills of funded PIs. All of these activities are working together to create a new generation of ATE leaders. Our current focus, and this is kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty of what we can do for you now. In a nutshell, we can help you in competing for an NSF grant award. And in doing so, grow your leadership skills and advance technological education. We are focusing specifically on the small grants for institutions new to ATE. As Dave Campbell pointed out, this is your best opportunity for getting your foot in the door at NSF. Your chances of being funded are the greatest. It helps you get started with your first NSF award, handling a scope of work that may not sink your ship the way a larger project might. There is a lot of work to do in these projects, and it's good to start small, develop a good solid foundation, and then move on to something bigger from there. We are helping those who are new to ATE through the proposal development, submission, and funding process. And there's more to come. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and co-PI, Ellen Haas, and she'll tell you a little bit about eligibility for this program. Ellen?
Thank you, Elaine. Yes, so who is eligible for MentorConnect? And I noticed there were a couple questions in the chat box on this as well, so I'll address that. So MentorConnect invites applications from 2-year technical and community colleges that have never received NSF ATE funding, or those that have not had an ATE award in the past 10 years. So if you've had NSF funding, say through STEM or another program, but not ATE, you are still eligible. So this pertains to having an NSF ATE grant in the last 10 years. There was also a question about if you were a partner, you received some funds through an ATE project, but you were not the principal institution or the fiscal agent. Are you eligible? And the answer there is yes. If your institution was not the primary applicant or the fiscal agent for the award, you are still eligible to come in on those new to ATE track as well. So the MentorConnect project is open to faculty at these institutions who are working to prepare STEM technicians for the U.S. workforce. And as Elaine mentioned, we're seeking STEM faculty that could benefit from improved leadership skills and those who would like assistance in preparing a competitive grant proposal for NSF's ATE program. And we're also seeking STEM faculty not only seeking assistance, but are really willing to make a strong commitment to developing and submitting that grant proposal in October 2016. And due to a limited number of spots in the program, so MentorConnect accepts teams from 20 colleges, we ask that you limit one team application per eligible college. So you may have faculty teams in more than one discipline area that are interested in applying for ATE funding at your institution, but we ask that you please consult and coordinate among your teams to determine who should apply. So while your college is welcome to submit more than one grant to NSF for those new to the ATE program, you should be aware that those teams would actually be in competition with one another, as well as the pool of other applicants for ATE funding. So you do want to consider which team could benefit most from the mentoring and proposal assistance opportunity offered by MentorConnect before applying. And as a strong emphasis, we are particularly encouraging applications from rural colleges and faculty teams from populations that are underrepresented in STEM areas. So that's a target focus of MentorConnect as well. Okay, I'd like to provide an overview of some of the assistance offered through this program. STEM faculty teams selected for MentorConnect receive access to technical assistance webinars, a grant proposal development workshop with travel support, which would occur in January 2016, a leadership development workshop, and an opportunity to attend the High Tech Conference, which is a STEM professional development conference put on by the ATE centers and a wonderful networking opportunity, and that's held in July 2016, and direct mentoring assistance through an assigned mentor. So to break that down a little bit more for you, teams of 2 STEM faculty from 20 selected colleges will receive MentorConnect support to develop ATE proposals for the October 2016 submission, and that support includes the following benefits. A 3-day workshop held on January 27 through 29, 2016 in New Orleans, Louisiana, where each college faculty team will be paired with an experienced ATE PI and mentor to work with them on site on their concept and proposal development. Mentors will also work with their colleges for approximately 36 hours of consulting time following the workshop up until the October 2016 ATE proposal submission. And the mentor team consists of experienced ATE PIs who have written and managed multiple ATE awards and have significant STEM background and skill sets. And a little bit more on the mentor team will follow later in this webinar. And you'll discuss with your mentors on site at the January workshop the best course for follow-up and communication, be it scheduling monthly phone calls or email correspondence to help each team meet their deliverables throughout the proposal development process. And in addition to working with a mentor, STEM faculty teams will have access to technical assistance webinars that are designed to assist with your grant proposal development. So we offer webinars on completing forms in NSF's FastLane, on developing budget and budget justifications, and on evaluation. Those will be offered in 2016, and Dennis will provide some more detailed information on that a little later as well. And as I mentioned, MentorConnect will reconvene the 20 college faculty teams for a leadership development workshop and some more face-to-face time with their mentors, and the opportunity to attend the High Tech Conference, which will be held this year in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, July 25 through 28, and next year, 2016. And STEM faculty teams will also have access to other resources offered through MentorConnect, such as sample proposals, help desk support, and frequently asked questions that address basic questions and needs in grant preparation. So I'd like to talk specifically about the January 2016 workshop, and this is the main event for the cohort and the first opportunity for the colleges to interact with their mentors. As referenced earlier, the workshop is being held over these dates in New Orleans, just ahead of Mardi Gras, if you plan on staying. And as part of MentorConnect, a 2-member team from the college is required to attend this workshop. And there's no registration fee for the STEM faculty team. And in addition, MentorConnect offers some travel support. We provide each participating college up to $2,400 in travel support for this faculty team of 2 to attend the January workshop. So STEM faculty teams also get personal time to work face-to-face with their assigned mentors at the workshop, as well as have the benefit of networking with the full cohort of potential grantees and the full cohort of the experienced mentor team. The workshop content, which Dennis will elaborate on momentarily, includes grant writing skills and tips for being competitive in an NSF ATE program. And all of the MentorConnect Workshop and technical assistance offerings are designed to help build leadership skills among STEM faculty through developing proposals and learning what is entailed in becoming an ATE grantee and a principal investigator. So while the MentorConnect focus is primarily on STEM faculty, it's important to note the role of the Sponsored Research Office, or SRO, grant writer or equivalent at your institution. So I'm going to take a minute to go into the SRO. If your institution does not have someone in this role, the function will need to be assigned to someone as you pursue federal grant funding. So while a faculty member can do most of what is required for submitting and preparing an NSF ATE proposal, there's a final and essential step that needs to be completed by a person at your institution who's actually authorized to commit college resources to the project being proposed. And that's typically the job of the SRO or grant writer, but can be handled by another person who's been given that authority. So the actual submission of an NSF ATE proposal is a two-step process. Once the faculty member has completed his or her work and the grant is prepared and ready to submit in FastLane, there's the first of 2 submit commands that will be activated. The first submit command sends the proposal to the second level of authority at the college, so typically the grant writer or the SRO. So when you hit submit, it does not submit your grant. It needs to have a secondary person do that. So the larger your institution, the more sophisticated this process and structure may be. And in some institutions, the grant writer and SRO are one and the same, but that's not always the case. So the essential message here is that it takes a second person to actually get your proposal submitted to NSF, and that person has to have the authority to supply an electronic signature for the college and forward that proposal. So this topic is one of many that will be discussed again at the January workshop, but I mention it here because it's really important to understand that the person with SRO authority at your institution makes a big difference in whether or not your proposal gets successfully submitted to NSF. And these individuals are typically very skilled at checking to see that all the requirements for grant submission have been met. So on that note, teamwork is encouraged. The MentorConnect project invites participation from the college's SRO, grant writer, and or a supportive administrator at the technical assistance workshop in January. So the project does not provide financial assistance for the SRO, grant writer, or administrator to attend, but we do offer it as a self-pay option and encourage participation with the faculty team. So up to 2 additional team members can attend for a $395 registration fee and benefit from a workshop breakout session and networking opportunity geared toward their needs as grant writers, sponsored research officers, and administrators. And workshop participation of an SRO, grant writer, or an administrator also allows some access to the faculty team's assigned mentor during the workshop and following the event, as well as access to all MentorConnect resources. Just to give you a sense of history, with our first cohort, we didn't have this option available. We just had the workshop open to the 2 faculty team members, and we had several colleges ask if they could bring a grant writer. The following year, we gave everyone an additional spot, and at the 2014 workshop with Cohort 2, all 20 college teams brought either a grant writer or an administrator with them. And this past January with Cohort 3, 19 out of the 20 colleges brought an additional team member, and 5 colleges brought 2 additional people. So we even had requests for people to bring more people, but we were obviously dealing with some space issues. So this year we worked to meet those needs, and we are as growing numbers of colleges expressed an interest in bringing additional people, we're actually offering 2 additional spots per team this year. So do consider, if you are selected for MentorConnect, assembling a full team to attend the January workshop. At this point, I'd like to go to a quick poll, and I'll ask Mike to launch that for me. We just would like to get a sense of how many of you know who serves in the role of SRO for your institution? So can you indicate yes, no, or if you're unsure? I think that, yes, the poll will actually be launched, so you can do that by clicking in the appropriate circle. Okay, thank you. So it looks like the majority of you do know, and we have a few maybes and a few no's. And so you certainly have time to go back and determine or have your college assign responsibility to an SRO at your institution. So great, I'll ask Mike to remove the poll. And then now I'd like to turn the presentation over to Dennis to give you some more information on the mentor's role in MentorConnect.
Hello, everyone. I hope the information is registering well with you. I'm going to drill down a little bit and talk about the role of the mentor and just reiterate some of the pieces that you heard in some overview earlier. Your mentor's role during this whole process is to assist during the workshop that Ellen so eloquently described. They will provide up to 36 hours of customized mentoring and consulting from the end of the workshop till the time of your submission. And the assistance they're going to provide has to do with strengthening your proposal topics, refining ideas and strategies, providing links to other ATE resources or people that might advantage your proposal, and help in addressing NSF and ATE requirements, some of which are fairly challenging at times. This is a picture of our 2015 mentors, all of whom are experienced PIs and directors of projects and grants and centers, and they are an amazing group of people. They are dedicated to helping you become a member of the AT community. We're pleased to have them and pleased that they've done such a good job with all the mentees, I'm sorry. They do come from different kinds of disciplines from across the country. As we talk about the workshop, I want to spend a little time going through some of the content for the workshop. We will do a review of the ATE proposal requirements. You will have read the solicitation, and as Dave said earlier, reread the solicitation at least 5 or 6 times. And we'll make sure that the components of a good proposal are, in fact, in place. We'll provide some strategies and tips for competitive proposals. We'll identify some of the NSF and ATE resources that would help your project be successful. And we want to talk a little bit about this idea of leadership. One of the things that is a focus of our grant is the idea that as you join the AT community, you're going to be presented with the opportunity to do some leadership development. And those opportunities and some of the support that NSF provides might encourage some of you to take a much more active and different role in the community. The highlight, I think, of the workshop is the mock NSF panel review of actual proposals. We will have the folks that are attending the workshop break down into panels so that you can experience what a typical panel review process might look like. You'll be working on actual NSF AT proposals from previous cohorts so that you'll see some good ones and some not so good ones and be able to make your determination about how to improve yours as a result of that. We will have a grant writer breakout session and specifically address some of the issues and concerns and needs that the grant writers have that may be different from the faculty experts that are building the proposal. You will draft a proposal concept and you will be asked to present an elevator speech. That's been one of the fun parts of the whole experience of having folks in a very quick 3-minute burst describe the essence of their concept and proposal. We'll also talk with you about the timeline for proposal completion. As Dave mentioned earlier, proposal is due in October. If you haven't already started one, you'd be silly to almost to begin to try, I think, at this point. We will give you some sense of what milestones need to be hit at what points in the development process so that you don't get bound up in terms of time as the proposal deadline's near. The other help that we're providing is the technical assistance webinars. Those will occur in the spring, and they'll be spread out in the spring, covering things like how to complete the gazillion forms that NSF wants you to complete. We'll specifically address the idea of evaluation for small projects. Evaluation and impact and showing evidence of both has been an increasingly strong emphasis from the ATE program. And the better you can describe how you're going to provide the evidence of your success and impact will better get your proposal in the mix for an award. We'll also go over in detail how to prepare the budgets and the budget justifications for the NSF budgeting process. The other MentorConnect resource that we provide is a help desk for folks who have specific questions or issues at their college that need to be addressed. We will identify the right person to answer those questions for you and put you in touch with that person so you can get those answers. We also have an increasingly large number of online resources that you can dig into on your own. There are a lot of frequently asked question kinds of information. There's a lot of guidance sheets and checklists and those kinds of things that will help you as you go through that whole proposal development process. So somebody had a question about, well, how do we go about applying? And the application is now available right now. It is available at our website, www.mentorconnect.org, and I would encourage you to get that done. You'll need to take a self-assessment that is included with the application. We expect you to submit one team application per college, as Ellen described. Multiple applications do nothing but compete against one another. So that team application is due October 9th. That includes a faculty profile and statement of interest from the 2 key faculty members that are going to attend the workshop. We need a statement of the proposal focus, the grant writer, SRO, or administrator profile, particularly if that person is coming to the workshop. We'd like to know who they are and what background they bring. And there is an affidavit signed by your top administrator that says, yes, in fact, we will support these faculty members as they go forward with this proposal development process. So the next question that naturally arises is, well, how are we selected? As folks have mentioned before, we select 20 colleges for each cohort. Each applicant becomes available for MentorConnect help. Whether you get into the cohort or not, we have some services that will help you if you don't make it into that group of 20. We will notify you on November the 6th, 2015, whether you're in the cohort. And if you are not included in the cohort or not accepted, we'll give you some options for one-on-one consultation, invitations to the technical assistance webinars, and access to any of the online resources that you'll find helpful. So we have another poll. How would you describe yourselves as prospective NSF grantees?
Oh, Dennis, I'm sorry, I launched the wrong poll. Hold on just a second. You think I would be able to do this here? Sorry, Dennis, just 1 second, okay.
That's okay. They need time to think about it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
We still have the
All right,
funding
hold on.
right up there.
Yeah, we're going to get it. Just a second here.
There we go.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Go ahead, folks, and respond. Thank you.
Well, interesting results. I'm glad to see that everyone is not clueless, although some are willing to kind of admit that. It's amazing how long this program has been in existence and how little information is out there on it. We're also pleased to see that there are some of you that are knowledgeable and confident in your abilities to become an NSF grantee. We like that kind of confidence as well. Mike, thanks. You can end the poll now. Let's talk a little bit about selection criteria just so you hear what we're looking at as we review the applications. Our MentorConnect team is the team that goes through these things. We will check to make sure the application has all the components that we've requested. We'll make sure that your college is eligible for that small grant category. And again, you heard some explanations of what that means in NSF's world. We'll make sure that the idea sounds good and that it has a technician education focus. We'll make sure that we see a STEM faculty team that is highly interested. And again, I'll reiterate that point about faculty are not required to have a doctoral degree. Some faculty, particularly the technical faculty who may not have any degrees or only have an associate degree, might raise some questions on a review panel, but I think the support that you provide for that person's inclusion in the materials that you submit will satisfy most reviewers. We're looking at geographic diversity of institution. That's one of our charges from the NSF program, is to get more folks involved from different parts of the country that may not have taken advantage of this opportunity before. And we're also looking for some demographic diversity of faculty and team members and the students that you serve, as a matter of fact. So we're trying to make sure that we begin to bring in the kinds of geographic and demographic diversity that NSF is looking for. And we had some questions earlier about results to date. Let me mention a few things to you about that. I won't read this whole thing, but just highlight a couple of things. As you've noted, or as we've noted, the application hit rate is somewhere around that average of 66%. 90% of folks in the first two cohorts have tended to submit have submitted proposals. The couple that didn't did so because of some unique circumstances that arose at their institution that interfered with their ability to get a proposal in. Change of administrators, issues at the state level that combined degree programs that they may have been working on, and similar kinds of activities. We have brought in 24 new states since the start of the program, and the funding rate for those who have successfully submitted a proposal is at that mark that you see in the final row of data. 10 of the 18, which is 56%, got funded in the first cohort. The rate went up to 67% in the second cohort, and we hope that we'll see at least similar results in the third cohort at this time. And should you join us, we would expect you to do equally well as you get through that proposal development process. So some of you may be considering whether this is the right time to get involved, and you'll need to make that decision about whether this is the right time, or maybe there are some options for you a little bit later on. If you decide not to apply to MentorConnect at this time, keep us in mind for the next cohort at pretty much the same time next year. You might use this time this year to address any obstacles that may interfere with your active participations coming year. And if you're not sure about whether or not you should or should not jump in, call one of our folks at the MentorConnect offices, and we'll be happy to talk with you about the pros and cons of doing it now versus later. For those who might be thinking about something other than a small grant, or who have decided that maybe they're not eligible as a small grantee, we do offer other assistance and other support for new grantees. We will not forget you once you get an award letter. We are providing various types of support for new awardees as they navigate the NSF ATE award finalization process and actually start implementing their grant. We're also building additional forms of support for all new grantees in areas critical to the success of their project. Project management kinds of activities, getting some of the activities underway, connecting with folks that can support some of their program improvement efforts, and so on. As folks have said earlier, this particular MentorConnect effort is limited to those who meet the NSF criteria for a college new to ATE. Those who are community colleges or degree granting institutions have not received NSF ATE grant funding in the past 10 years and who are focused on appropriate technician education areas. Sometimes we get some proposals that don't look much like technician education. One that doesn't quite fit into that definition, as an example, is something like nursing. Not quite ATE's definition of technician education. Again, underscore, read the program solicitation. So if you don't meet these couple of criteria that we've talked about, stay in touch. We continue building resources and support systems to help new grantees and those seeking other types of ATE funding. You can access all of those resources by visiting the website and clicking on the resources link. And just as a summary, one of our major goals and one of NSF's major goals in funding this MentorConnect project is to bring more folks in who can benefit from and contribute to the ATE program. We hope you'll be one of those folks who decide to make that commitment to both benefit from and contribute to the program. I'd like to turn the presentation over to Charlotte at this point and kind of give you some final details as we close out the presentation. Thank you. Hope to see you.
Thank you, Dennis. At this time, we would like to lay out a bit of a timeline for you as a recap. We would like for you to be able to plan ahead a bit. But the first thing that you will do is download an application, if you have not done so already, from the MentorConnect.org website listed on the screen. As you've heard throughout the presentation, we encourage you to build your teams early. October 9th is the last day to submit applications for one-on-one mentoring. By November 6th, each team will be notified of acceptance into the mentoring program. All notifications will be sent by email, so please keep your eyes peeled. Notifications for all those who are accepted into the MentorConnect mentorship will consist of forms needed to solidify your spot for the mandatory workshop in January. Correspondence includes an official letter of notification, workshop registration, travel reimbursement procedures and forms, hotel reservation links, and, your workshop homework. The workshop will be held, as you've heard earlier in the webinar, at Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans, Louisiana, January 27th through the 29th. This workshop is required and mandatory for anyone in all teams who are accepted for one-on-one mentoring. Following the workshop in January, there will be a series of live webinar broadcasts that provide technical assistance to those pursuing grant funding assistance opportunities. We now have a date for all webinars, so please watch for registration details and watch for registration to be opening soon. Please stay connected with MentorConnect. I cannot emphasize that enough. No matter where you are in the process of becoming an NSF ATE grantee, we are here to help. We can be reached in a variety of ways. For example, the website, we're on email, social media, and you might even see us at one of your local outreach events. Please take a look. We are here, we are present, and we look forward to hearing from you. The archived presentation will be sent to each of you and also made available via our website at the conclusion of this webinar. We ask that you reference the handout that was sent to you personally by email for additional details and contact information. Please, 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 there were a lot of fantastic questions posed today, and if we hope to address those at the conclusion of the webinar. However, if you have questions, please reach out to me directly or one of the team members directly. At this time, I would now like to turn the presentation over to Elaine for final questions and the webinar survey. Please take a minute to help us improve these webinars. We appreciate your interest in our project, your time, and making this webinar break a MentorConnect record. So thank you, and at this time, we will address some of your questions.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. I'm looking in the chat box here, and all right, so someone has asked if we could send a list of questions and answers. That is something that we have not done in the past, but it's a great suggestion, so we're looking to doing that. Someone asked about, let me scroll back up here a little bit, about the industry focus on technician education programs and asked if a team member could be from industry. The answer to that is for your grant proposal itself, yes. Having having an industry person on your team is a great idea, and if you can get that kind of commitment, that would be very good for your project. However, for the MentorConnect cohort experience, the two faculty members that can be supported to participate must be faculty members, STEM faculty members. And so you could not include an industry person as one of the two that are in your application. There was a question about the technician fields and whether ATE has, it says, this question here says, are there any tech ed focus that are preferred within STEM fields? The main thing, and Dennis alluded to this, is that the NSF does not do medical programs at all that have to do with the delivery of health care to humans or animals. So no veterinary technician programs, for instance, no nursing or any allied health programs like that. There are some instances where somebody has got a program that specializes in perhaps the repair and installation of medical equipment, and that might be something that could be funded by ATE. But typically, the STEM disciplines that are of interest to ATE are those areas where there is job demand in your area, demonstrated job demand in your area among industries. And there is a very broad spectrum of disciplines that applies to, running a gamut from, welding to all of the different kinds of energies, to geospatial technology, biotechnology, nanotechnology. We have some supply chain technologies that have been funded, and the list goes on and on. So it's a very broad swath, but it's tied to industry jobs, and you do need to make that connection in your proposal. In terms of the online resources, Charlotte, I'd like to toss it to you and let you talk a little bit about online resources that are available to those who are not in the MentorConnect program.
Sure. On the MentorConnect website, there is currently a resource collection, and so if you go to www.mentorconnect.org, you are able to click on Visit Our Library and have access to a number of resources. Now, our resources are a bit unique because they are geared towards helping those who are writing proposals and going through the proposal preparation process. So resources that you will find are often templates, excerpts from some of the proposal guides, and even sample proposals. Someone asked the question, do you have sample proposals of those who have been successful. At this time, we do not have those made public on our resource collection. However, in the very near future, that will be something made available. But at this time, those are available to those in the cohort who are participating in the workshop.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. We had a question about someone being a co-PI and also serving as the coordinator or senior personnel. Ellen, would you like to address that question? Oh, Ellen lost audio. Okay.
Dave is still online.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I'm here. What's the question again, please?
Oh, perfect. We had a question if someone who was a co-PI could also serve as the coordinator or senior personnel on a project.
Yeah, I think so. You just can't be paid more than once. But yeah, the co-PI's responsibility can be to serve as the coordinator of the senior personnel. Yeah.
Thank you. We have another question that asks if a faculty team member could be adjunct or part-time. The answer to that is yes. We have accepted teams that were made up of a full-time person and a part-time person. Our concern, well, let me back up a little bit. The reason we say 2 STEM faculty members is because we are trying to build capacity at your college. And therefore, we want 2 individuals who could serve as principal investigators for NSF projects. There are some real challenges to having an adjunct faculty member as a principal investigator on a project, primarily because of the college rules and regulations regarding what adjunct faculty have the authority to do. For instance, initiate purchase requisitions and do some of the things that principal investigators have to do fairly regularly in to conduct their projects. And so it causes some constraints, and so we look at those very carefully. But if it's a long-term adjunct faculty member who's really very much part of the fabric of your institution, and that is the best person to be on this grant proposal team, it's allowable, and we take that into consideration when we look at the team. So just build your case for an adjunct faculty member if you propose your team to have one. I would not put in an application that had 2 adjunct faculty members. You need somebody who is permanent at the institution.
Elaine, there's a good question about getting some research on NSF awards for, what's going on and what's fundable and so on. Maybe Dave can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, if you go to the NSF website, in the blue banner near the top, you'll see the word awards. You click on that, and there's a search awards function. So you can search the NSF website for every single NSF award that's been made since around the 1970s, I think it goes back to. And if you click on advanced search, you can filter that. So you can search by everything that the ATE program has funded in the last year or last 5 years. You can add a lot of filters to it. You can search by state. You can search by topic, etc. You can even put my name and see the projects that I funded. So there's a lot of ways that you can see what things have been funded by the ATE program or other programs in the past. And when you click on the individual links, you'll go to the project, and it will give you the abstract of the award, the principal investigator, the principal investigator's contact information, and how much the award was for. So that will give you some good idea about the kinds of things that have been funded recently.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Dave. And you can also search on topics. So if you want somebody to ask you how you know whether or not you've come up with a novel idea. So if, for instance, you wanted to do something in robotics, then you could actually search on that and find out what sort of projects and things that people had submitted relative to that topic. So NSF Awards database is a real wealth of information to help out.
Yeah, Ellen just put the link on the chat site there.
Yeah, we've got the URL there in the chat box for anybody who hasn't found it yet. Oh, it's an excellent question here. It says, how important is industry cost matching? This is a very important point. There cannot be any cost sharing with the NSF awards. In fact, Dave, you might want to chime in on this, but it is strictly prohibited. So there is no cost matching that is required, and in fact, you are prohibited from including that in your proposal. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. You could do an in-kind sort of thing, so like a letter of commitment from industry saying that they're going to provide paid internships or something like that is fine, but no cash cost sharing is allowed by the institution or industry.
So this
Elaine,
is a really good thing for community colleges, because that was always a little bit of a sticking point that we didn't, we couldn't always come up with the matching funds that were required for certain kinds of grants. Yes, Dennis?
I've noticed a couple comments about partnerships of various kinds with community colleges or with industry or whatever. And just to reiterate, I think that's a plus in terms of the small grant or any NSF proposal, to think about the kinds of meaningful partnerships, not just partnerships for partnership's sake, but the kind of meaningful partnerships that would enhance your project, that would expand the impact of your project, that would make the results of your efforts more available to more folks. So I would suggest that some of the questions that hit on partnerships should really think about that, and so should the others. I think that's an important piece, but again, I stress that idea of meaningful partnership. Just having a few folks signed on to get some company's name on there on the proposal that's not going to do much for you is probably not going to advantage you very much.
Also, in terms of your application to MentorConnect, it is possible to have team members from 2 institutions, but we split the financial support, and it would need to be a relationship that really made sense for your proposal. We have funded one that was a partnership between a 2-year college and a university, where that university was providing some unique training for the faculty at the 2-year college to allow them to get certified to build their programs in a certain technology area. So that is possible. We do like innovation in this program, and so, but if you're working on your MentorConnect application and you're not sure that what you're proposing is something that fits within our parameters, feel free to call and ask. We'll be glad to talk with you about it. Okay, well, I think I'll ask our Maytech support group at this time to launch a very short survey. It helps us improve our webinars to hear back from you and get some feedback to know whether we've met our objectives. And again, evaluation is as important for us as it is for you and your projects. And so we really appreciate your help in closing this webinar out with this short survey. Thank you for joining us. And a special thanks to Dr. David Campbell of the National Science Foundation. It's been great having you with us, and I think our audience will find as they become more familiar with the NSF ATE program that you are a very user-friendly group. Mm-hmm. We love working with you. You're extremely supportive, and I think your presence today is sending that message loud and clear to our audience, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And with that, this is Elaine Kraft and the rest of the MentorConnect team saying have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
See you all.